So very quickly, the Wenatchee Downtown Association is a 501c3 nonprofit. And a lot of people don't really get us, and that will be at the end of what we need to do and what can we do to help that. But we are not the chamber and we're not the city. Though we love to be connected and confused with both, actually we run our own budget. We have a board of directors, dedicated volunteers in the board of directors. And we are both state and nationally accredited as a Main Street program. So what is Main Street? In the 70s, Main Street started in the east, right? And the reason Main Street started is because these great old historic downtowns were being gutted to shopping malls. And vacancy, vacancy, vacancy. And many of your really heart of your community, your old downtowns, were really vacated and they were a ghost town. And so the Main Street movement started, and the idea about Main Street is an awareness really campaign. It's economically, it's an economic development focused organization. A lot of people lose that in the work that we do, and that's why I'm glad I get to talk about the economic development side of our organization. But I explain it as new business in old buildings. So the Main Street program embraces historic old downtown buildings and the uniqueness and the role they play in the community, but also encourage economic development, tenant mix. Who's going to occupy these spaces when they become vacated? How do we message that? So in order to be state and nationally accredited, we have to jump through a lot of hoops, AKA I do lots of reports, talk about lots of things, but we are only one of 13 communities now in the state of Washington that are both nationally and state accredited. The national part was important. So in the state of Washington, there are 34 accredited Main Streets. So why isn't Spokane a Main Street or Seattle? They're too big. This is really small community. So the closest Main Streets to us is going to be Chelan and Ellensburg, right? There's some in the Tri-Cities. In the Seattle area, you're going to see the Coopvilles, the Langleys, Port Townsends, the smaller communities, because economic development is really a key factor in keeping these downtown vibrant. So we have a board of directors, like I said, volunteers, and then we work off of 4 working committees that meet once a month. So design committee, pretty self-explanatory. We talk about flower baskets. We're about to hang 100 of them after apple blossom, so they don't get trashed. So we're about to hang 100 baskets. That's design. They talk about what we look like. Something design did in collaboration with the city and the chamber is the lights across the avenue at night. Super fun, yeah? It's our idea, right? But other thing we know about being nonprofit, those things are really expensive. And a quick side note, I'll derail a little bit. That was a really fun idea that we thought would be very reasonably priced. The first thing we got hit in the head with was it was over $8,000. The city had to get engineering because they were worried that those lights would pull the Cobra lights down, right? And all those plugins had to be assessed. It was crazy. And then we had to have special bolts to hang them. And so we got there in a little budgeted, fun little program, ended up to be 3 times what we thought it would cost. So that is when collaboration with small nonprofits like ours helps. Chamber and the city stepped in to help us do that. We were so far down that train route, we had to get them up, and I was going to die or get them up, right? And so they are a game changer at nighttime in downtown, and they will remain up all year. So in the summertime, when you're down here sitting outside, those lights are going to power up when the Cobras power up. So that's design committee. Organization committee, I always say, is my least sexiest. They talk about my budget, they talk about bylaws, they talk about are we following all the rules right? And it's those brains that we need. The least amount of fun, but really one of the most important about the structure. The third committee is promotions, right? That's self-explanatory. So what have we done lately that you might have seen? Girls' Night Out. We actually only do 3 what I call fundraising promotions a year. Girls' Night Out. Father's Day, we're about to do Ale Trail. It is a beer walk through downtown. And you buy a glass and a beer glass, a wristband, and we ship you out into 16 locations in the downtown. And what's super fun about this is that it happens on Father's Day Saturday. So we see people now in our 4th year begin to bring their dads down. But because it competes directly with one of the biggest beer events in the state in Seattle, A lot of beer companies and breweries don't do both, so we get these newer breweries. So this year we have like 6 that have never poured in downtown. Super fun. So if you want to try some really good tastings, it's really an inexpensive way to do that. Oh gosh, I'll hurry real quick. How are we funded? Oh, and the fourth is economic, and I'll talk about that in a minute. How are we funded? We're funded through membership, but we are funded because 9 years ago now, the state passed something called the Main Street Tax Credit Incentive Program, meaning if you're a business that has to pay B&O tax, you probably don't like it. But you can make a contribution to an accredited Main Street program and get 75% back that as a direct B&O tax credit. That accounts for about $100,000 in my budget every year, and because of that, I don't have to go business to business and go, hi, I'm Linda, right? So we don't have to. A lot of the things that we do, like the veterans banners that you see, the heroes banners over all the month of November, over Veterans Day month, all of those Halloween, possibilities tour, all of those things really are revenue neutral or we lose money on. My cup is full. How can you help us? How are we economic development driven? We're about to have one of our biggest messages of the year. On the 22nd of May, we do something called the Downtown Possibilities Tour. And I have a little card as a save the date. We get about 60 or 70 people to show up. You don't have to RSVP. This year, you get first hit of where it's going to start on the corner of Kittitas and Wenatchee Avenue. We show up at 3 o'clock in the afternoon on a Wednesday, and we have a conversation. I call it a Kick the Tires tour. First buildings we're going to be in are the old Keyhole building on the corner of Kittitas and Wenatchee Avenue, and the oldest standing brick building in this town, my favorite, and the one in the worst condition, by the way, is the original jail for Wenatchee, and it's that old brick building just behind. We're going to get into both of those. Then we're going to go down in the old Wells and Wade building that Joe Gamboni has the listing on. We're going to tour that. And we're going to get into some of these lineage, the lineage property that just went up for sale, these great warehouses on Columbia. We get in 3 of those buildings. It'll be a super fun tour. And we are helped with that with the Port of Chelan County. They give us money to help promote that, give you a little beverage and food at the end. Also our new business toolkit. How can you help us? Shop local. We are the cheerleaders for small business in our downtown. The Amazon effect is hitting hard and hitting fast. And some are reacting to that, but at the end of the day, we need everybody to consider downtown, right? Eat downtown, even if it's once a month. When you're doing Mother's Day shopping, Father's Day shopping, Christmas shopping, birthday shoppings. I know it's easy to sit in your home and click on that computer and that Prime just drops it right to your front door. But the Peggies, the Marcies, the people in downtown that are counting on small business and loving this need you to consider downtown one more time. How you can help us, shop local, right? We're their cheerleaders. Shop local. Exactly. And engage with us. So you'll see I have 3 pretty large, well, 2 large and 1 kind of spaces in downtown vacant right now. The bar space is right next to Iwa Sushi, owned by the same property owner, and she's my only out-of-town property owner. Pretty crazy, right? And she owns also the old Rialto Theater, which used to be the Veterans Thrift Shop, right? Those 2. She's actually landing in town today because she wanted to come to town on the absolute craziest time of the year she could select, which is apple blossom. So she's going to go, what in the world did I drop into? But she's going to show those. And then the Mills Brothers space. And the Mills Brothers space is vacant right now for a purpose. Sam and Vicki Mills, that family has owned that over 100 years. When they retired, they made a decision that they were going to lease that to something that's going to embrace and help the downtown. Some property owners just want a living, breathing body that can pay rent. They want the right thing in their space that's going to be successful. And that's the other. Other than that, I don't have vacant space on the ground level. I have some upstairs vacant space. I have 11 buildings in adaptive reuse rehab right now. 11. You're about to see the Mercantile open up, right? The Mercantile is across from Mela. It's going to be a co-working space, plus there'll be other permanent businesses in there. Super cool. On the corner of Orondo and Wenatchee Avenue, the old bank building is going to be the temporary home of the library. They'll open up today, I believe. And they did a little pass the book thing, super fun. But the library will be there for a year while they are redoing their building, and then that will become available for lease. But I have 11 buildings like that in adaptive reuse rehab. New investment, new money, new hope, and new vision in downtown.
So how does that compare to the past?
Oh my gosh. These buildings never changed hands. And there was a reason, right? They never changed hands because of the state, I believe, of real estate here. And when real estate began to get, and the new frontier began to be housing, we still have a 1% vacancy rate in this community, right? I have over 100,000 square feet unused upstairs downtown. 100,000 square feet. And so now it's profitable for them to begin to look at housing on the upper floors. What can we do to make those upper floors produce revenue and be vibrant? One of the biggest reasons, Stacy, is readapting an historic downtown. Historic is another word for expensive. No other way around it. So if you have over a certain amount of units, you need an elevator. Anything upstairs is really going to require sprinklering, right? So we tried to hedge our bets a little bit, and we did a redo about 4 summers ago, and they stubbed out to these properties water lines, so they only had to come to the street. But still, it's expensive. There's that little thing called asbestos, right? That they used a lot in these old buildings that have to be abated. So really, when you talk about adaptive reuse of downtown, you got to have some vision and some hope, and you have to plan for the future, because it doesn't pencil out immediately. And the other thing you have to consider is the P word, and I'll bring it up: parking. We have over 1,800 on-street parking spots in the downtown. So when people say we have a parking problem, we have a parking conception problem, a misconception problem. Good question. We just got it. So what we did was we worked with the designer and the city, because we collaborate with the city. We need a better direction to where those public lots are, where the time lots are. So I'll give you another sneak preview. It hasn't been public yet. It is an apple with a P in the middle. Oh. And so for an app, the city's developing an app, right? And in collaboration with the chamber, that you're going to be able to know, like a green app will be timed parking on your app, or a red will be free parking, or a yellow, I don't know what that, or no parking, I don't know. But we're going to have, so the city's redoing those parking signs right now.
Green would be free.
Green would be free?
Please don't make red free.
No, red free. So the other thing we're doing is we're about to launch with the property and the business owners a program called Customer First. And it incorporates that P. I just got that logo 2 days ago. And what we are encouraging the property and the business owners is to leave the parking to the customer first. One of our biggest problems downtown, employees parking on the street and doing the 3-hour move, right? And it's easier. And we are wired to park close. So the other thing you heard last month, I think it was last month, when he talked about having a business, when we talked about Radar Station, right? And that there seems to be this wall barrier on Orondo, and people don't go south. That is developing on that end. That's where a lot of parking is available. So we did this parking study in 2017, and they literally counted the stalls every hour for 10 hours on a Thursday and a Saturday, and didn't tell anybody. We just counted them. A company came in and counted them. And then they did what was called a heat map. So what times of the day are green, meaning you could park about anywhere you want, yellow, caution, and red, no available parking. We only had red for an hour and a half any day in only one location, here to Palouse. Here to Palouse. These 2 blocks, because of the convention center, was and Mela and all those cool things, right? And so really, the parking is a little bit further south. We just don't like to walk.
Just 1 block?
1 block south, yeah. So one of my business owners said, why do people wear Fitbits? They don't like to walk, right? I know it. So, so we are working now. Here's another challenge we have. What's developing? The waterfront, right? The waterfront's developing. That's going to impact that downtown both positively, and there's going to be even more issues with parking, right? And there's this other little thing called Burlington Northern Santa Fe. I call them the sovereign nation because they pretty much do, and I don't know if you know this or not, but this is where they power up or power down the cars to get over the pass or off the pass, and they change the guard, employees. That's why they block that for up to 40 minutes every day. They're changing employees. Totally blocking that between you and Pybus. So what we're working on with the city is, I call it breadcrumb. Let's trail people around. How do you get across Rearwalk Crossing? Where's the grade separation down below on the other end? How do we navigate people, especially our visitors? So I'm going to bounce one more time, and according to navigating people, and I would be remiss to not tell you this, Apple Blossom has an app. Just to give you an idea how big of an impact this will have this year, there are 92 cars worth of dignitaries, old royalty and stuff coming back here. What? 92 dignitary cars. An old princess is sitting right there. No, I get to call her old because we've been besties for over 40 years and she's older than I am. "30 years ago, this community decided to do something called the Streetscape Project. And they did it with a local improvement district, a LID, an LID. And what an LID does is it takes the property owners, it assesses their lineage front of their property, and they assess them a tax for 20 years to pay for the improvement. Everybody pays a little bit. So 60% of the property owners almost 30 years ago had to choose to do that. And they did. So for 20 years, they were assessed a tax to do the improvement called Streetscape. So what did we get? Prior to that, it was 4 lanes here instead of 2 lanes. It was parallel parking instead of angle parking. They did that with a pretty hefty LID. You got the new street poles with the new lights. You got the garbage cans, landscaping. That all came in with Streetscape. The block between Yakima, where Centennial Park is, and Kittitas opted out. So right there, you feel different, right? You get to Centennial Park down there, and you head further south, and you kind of go, what happened? Why doesn't this feel like downtown? They opted out of that LID. So just to give you an idea what that means today, I wanted to run those lights another block. It's over $100,000 for me to do that because they have to redo the Cobras. They have to redo all the infrastructure to make that happen. That's when you're a business or a building owner and you're going, oh, I don't want to kick this money in for 20 years. It wasn't that much to get the improvements that we have. So let's talk about Orondo. Orondo didn't used to be a big a deal until Pybus came in. And Pybus, you see that gateway, right? And you immediately go down that way. So what will help the big divide at Orondo, and I really call the big divide really at Yakima at Centennial Park, but that big divide will be what is developing down there. So there's fun things coming a little bit the end of the year I can't tell you about down there, but they just opened 509 Beer Works on Columbia. I think single-handedly what will change that, and you'll think I'm crazy, but these properties for sale from Lineage, Columbia Coal Store selling all their properties, that opens up these great funky warehouse spaces on Columbia to do something amazing, that's going to take that divide out because there's going to be lots of property on that end. The crossover to Orondo is always going to be tough because it feels like a thoroughfare, right? It is 4 lanes and they are screaming. It's downhill by nature and they are driving like a bat out of hell south, right, east. And so it's always going to be an issue. But what we can do to mitigate that issue is what is now happening in that block. And it'll be I think it will fix itself. Between Yakima and Kittitas, however, and further south, in front of Link, that's really the new frontier, right? We need to it needs to feel more like a community, not a divide. And it's a constant conversation we have is how do we do that? Because they honestly don't even engage with our organization and we can really help them. So a new business comes online and here's what drives me crazy. 4 lease goes down, the paper goes up, and the mystery begins. And literally, Meredith and I, we're a 2-women show, we're peeking in the window, stalking them, trying to figure out who it is and what it is, because we can help them, right? We have a new business toolkit, we can help them with signage. We aren't going to charge them anything to help them. But it's a big frickin' mystery. We don't anybody know because they're going to steal our idea. I get it, but if they can engage with us and Chelsea at the chamber, we can help them. We do their ribbon cuttings, woohoo, right? We can help promote them. So we're just looking for ways to better connect, even on that end, with business. There's something new on the horizon, and it is called the Opportunity Zone. It's really a federal program, and they took the 2010 census tracts, and communities and ports and counties could apply to be in an opportunity zone. To be an investment in an opportunity zone, if you have capital gains to invest, and I'll try not to be complicated, my understanding is enough to keep me dangerous, but if you invest in an opportunity zone with your capital gains and leave it in there a certain amount of time, you get a 10% reduction in what you have to pay in capital gains. If you leave it in 10 years, you get a 15% reduction in the capital gain that you originally would have had to pay, and any increase you pay no capital gains on. So it is a design by the federal government to have infused investment in opportunity zones. Opportunity zones are areas that need some help. 5th Street to Malaga is an opportunity zone. So what's happening at the PUD, happening on Columbia Street, people investing in that can take advantage of opportunity zone investment. It also includes Mission Ridge. Pretty crazy. And on the east side, it includes the edge of East Wenatchee all the way to Rock Island. So that new project you might have read about in the paper about Rock Island, it qualifies for opportunity zone investment. So they anticipate there is a lot of interest right now with people infusing money into this community. Pretty cool. Okay. All right. We done? Awesome. Thank you.